Hi, this is part 3 of the character drawing series. Let's continue now by drawing another part on that torso. I'm going to zoom in. In the layers palette, I'll click on my torso layer. Now I need to draw the hips area. And since my character has a shirt and pants, I'm going to do a little bit of overlap with the hip. If the torso of your figure is kind of like all one appearance, say it's a animal that stands upright and the whole body is just all fur, then you can do yours a little bit differently than what I'm going to show, but I'll explain it as I go. First, with add point, I'm going to take the two edges here of the bottom of the shirt and flare them out a bit. I can always put those back in a bit later on. I just don't want those points in my way for what I'm about to do. Now I'll click on the Add Point tool. Up here I'll choose Autofill and Auto Stroke. I'm going to choose a color that would be similar to the pants, but for now I am making everything lighter than how I'll have it at the end, so a light blue, and click OK. I'm going to start drawing up above where the shirt ends, dragging and clicking, going past it, and I'll go all the way down to here to the bottom of the whole torso of the body. And back here would be, let's see, let me close this up right now, and I'm going to hit enter. Obviously that needs shaping up, but the goal is to have it to where it's the part of the body that's the waist, the hips, the buttocks, okay? And I might need to use the curvature tool on a couple of areas. I can always refine this more later on too. So this piece needs to be below the shirt piece. The way you do that, go over here and click on the Select Shape tool. I'm going to click on that piece. And on my keyboard, I'm going to push the down arrow, and I'll do that as many times as it takes to see that it's now behind the shirt. Okay? And now I'm going to click on my Transform Points tool and click once in a blank area so I can see the shirts in front of it. And if I wanted to push back in these points here, if I didn't want the shirt flared out quite that much, I could do that now. Or later on, much later, even next week when we're rigging with bones and we can see how all the parts are moving. Now for those of you who may be working on a character where the whole torso is just one piece, one color, there's no difference like what you're seeing here, then you don't need to add that separate piece. You can just take whatever you've got going already, and if you haven't already extended it all the way down here, what would be the rest of the torso from the waist all the way down to basically what would meet with the legs, but extending a little below that, okay, just go ahead and do that instead. You don't have to do any overlapping like I created this separate piece, okay? You would just have a one object, one piece, you know, that would extend all the way down to meet up with, you know, that part like the upper thigh of the legs of your character. Just make sure that you have a handful of points, you know, all the way through to work with later when we rig with bones. Now let's make a leg, and once we're done making the leg, we can copy it and we'll have two legs, and that'll be really fast. In the Layers palette, click on New Layer, Vector, and we'll start out with calling this one Leg Front. Okay, that'll be the front leg. If one of the legs on your character is nice and straight, use that one as your guide. If both of the legs on your character isn't straight, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to work with that. So I'm actually going to copy from this leg and then straighten it out. Let's just say that in my image that I'm going to copy from, both of my character legs are bent. I'll take the least bent one, the one that looks like it's the easiest to work with. So let's just say this is the one. I'll go over here and click on the Draw Shape tool, and I'm going to choose the rectangle. And right next to this leg here, I'm just going to get a general idea. I'd say that looks pretty much like the width and the length of this part here, from the thigh down to the knee. And then I'm going to go to the Add Point tool, and I need to add a point here and here, so that you have kind of a tube shape. Now, clicking over here on the Transform Points tool and clicking on that, I can rotate it and see if I need to make any adjustments. And yep, I didn't guess very well. Let me zoom in here. So if I wanted to shape that up, I can grab point by point and imagine that this would be where the knee is going to meet up. Okay, so get it so that it matches up pretty good there. And I've moved my image up a little bit. Now I'm going to make this part right here. So clicking on the draw shape and the rectangle, and again guessing out the width and the length. Going back over to Add Point, I need to make a little tube out of it. And then on Transform Points, once again I'm clicking on that. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to turn it and do whatever I need to do to get this shaped up, just so that I know I've got the shape of this part of the leg. Well, actually in this one it's turned up like that. Okay. So this is going to be the leg length I'm going to work with, and I have to have the two parts, the upper and the lower. Now we can't leave them like that. I just needed to show you how you can copy from something if you don't feel confident enough to draw something that's actually standing straight upright, or if you don't have a straight leg to work from. Now that I know this is the shape, this is the size, then I can click on the larger one. I'm going to rotate it straight. I'm going to move it over here. And this is going to be the front leg. I'm clicking on the bottom part now, and I'll straighten that out. They have to overlap like this, and you'll find out why later, but you need to have kind of a circle in here. This is going to be where the joint would be for the knee. Okay, so you have the bottom and the upper. It would also be good to temporarily close that character you're working from, and that way it can help you to see if you've got it pretty good and straight. Okay, because I noticed mine wasn't so much. Okay, we want to start out with a character standing straight upright because we'll be animating it. And don't worry about how all this looks right now with these lines, and that'll all get cleaned up much later on. So once you have your two leg parts and you're feeling good about them, all you need to do is go over here in the Layers palette, click on that leg front layer, and then up here click on Duplicate, and then name the duplicate leg back. And then you can take that and click on Transform Layer over here in the Tools, and you can move it over to there. Now, again, we'll be getting all of this organized more later on, but the back leg would go below the torso. Okay. And a little bit higher. And you can always turn back on the image of the character that you're working from and, see how you're doing. Just sort of compare it to what you see there in the background. So go ahead and get yourself up to this point. I'll pause now and continue in the next video.